Still have the random sounds that Hoshiguma's damage immunity just randomly procs from the damage effect.
I'm always here for you, Doctor.
Oh, I forgot. But I can still do it. Luckily, these don't actually take all that time. They would if I had to actually do the rounds, but we are TR's thingy fixes that. Luckily, I had sanity boosters, so I can just use those. I always forget. It's not like something I noticed. I wish I wish it showed up somewhere on like the main screen. You remember to take. Who am I working on? What am I working on? Who am I working on? I seem to have forgotten. Oh, it is that one. I did not want to. There we go. Kind of. Not really.
Do you want nothing? Time for some tail care.
Yeah, we're doing a lecture next then. How many do I need total? 119.
1, 2, yes, all accounted for.
Shock. I guess yeah, closest. Actually, the closest would be Shingy. Right, advert comedy. There we go. Lucky takes almost exactly one. Frick. We gotta change this tomorrow morning. Oh. Which one shakes first? Oh, it's... God, I wish Brecky would shut up. I wish I had this Poncerus character that shows up on this banner. I gotta say, yesterday was interesting. I finally saw the weird route. I didn't want to wait to be able to do it on my personal run because my freaking weird right save file is currently stuck at spam, so like, can't do anything with that. That spamted fight is not a fight for me. Similar to how on my main file, the Yumi fight is not a fight for me. I haven't seen the ending of Chapter 5 normally, but I did get to see what the weird art is. Oh my god. The sheer level for Toby Fox, every chapter, to absolutely demolish theories. Like, absolutely just destroy them is crazy. Like, are you kidding? Because, like, chapter one, obviously, all the theories during the chapter one area were going to be wrong because it's chapter one and we do absolutely objectively squat, that stuff. Chapter two, we learn more about the knight. We have more mentions of them outside of King's dialogue. King and the Knight's or King and Jevel's dialogue. To be honest, King's dialogue doesn't tell us jack diddly squat either. But chapter 2, we got more mentions of it. We got the mention of the actual creation of dark fountains and what they actually are, and like we actually at the end we got to see one being created. So of course throughout the entirety of chapters, while waiting for chapters 3 and 4, a lot of the stuff was figuring out who the knight was. And of course all of our theories had to be wrong. Of course there were a lot of people still saying Knight's, Chris Knight theory. That obviously was proven right at the end of chapter 3 because, well, we got to see the Knight on screen, so the Knight on screen with Chris, so obviously they're different people. Or, well, we thought they were. I'll get to that. We, throughout after the end of chapter 4, the characters who we could have thought that could have been the Knight were we have 3 main candidates. There obviously were joke characters like Jockington and Papyrus, but the main 3 candidates were all of the holidays that weren't Noel. Rudy Knight obviously was just kind of more of a funny thing, but it was also somewhat serious because it did have some credibility to it. And then, of course, we had the red herring character, as she's often called, the Carol Knight. And then, of course, the one that pretty much everyone believed had to be true, which was, of course, can I get my attack off, you fucking assholes? Which, of course, was Death's Knight. Death being the Knight made the absolute most sense. And then the Rear came along and was like, hey, what if that wasn't the case? What if the Knight is actually someone completely different? And we're like, huh, what? Who else could it be? What if it's both Chris and Noel? I'm sorry? Those that haven't seen the end of the chapter 5 Weird Route, it is frankly kind of ridiculous. It's actually insane how ridiculous it was, but I think the most notable thing was that Chris and Noel go into the lake past the game's edge. Like, if you take the room they're in and then you line it up with how far they go in that sequence where you're forcing them to proceed so they don't drown in the lake as they're walking under it, and they go out of bounds. We know it's out of bounds because the breadcrumbs thing, the sand gives you a piece of bread that explicitly mentions breadcrumbs, which is a reference to Mother 1 in one of those out in and out of bound glitch from the game. It's a whole thing because, of course, it wouldn't be Toby if there wasn't some reference to Earthbound. And I'll have some others. Cool. And then I still can't believe this. So what do we after that whole sequence? It's currently believed that the Knight is an amalgamation of Chris and Noel. It is literally Chris L. Knight is not something I was expecting. And the reason is because a bunch of the things that happened in that whole sequence before they entered the lake, or even some of it in the lake, actually has to do with different lines when you fight the Knight. You feel your throat constricting. Your only acting ability is hold breath. The north and east winds blue fiercely is the most insane pull I noticed anyone see, which is because if you use the sun where it's setting and the direction of the wind in that cutscene, it's blowing from the north and east. It's blowing southwest. It's fucking crazy. That's people notice that. It's literally the north and the east winds blew fiercely. There's stuff like that. The vision narrowing in the cutscene, and it all makes sense as well. A lot of the poses that the knight uses are a bunch of Chris's poses. Even in the most recent chapter, I believe I saw a mention of. I think there's a sprite of the knight kneeling in the exact same way that Chris does when after falling down from something. Um, and then also like the magic that's used and the specific dialogue choices that are used, even if it's unused, because Toby knows people are going to look for the unused dialogue. There's a character that is literally speaking to you in the code, but in there's unused Shadow Crystal dialogue that specifically mentions um, you seeing the characters being frozen. After bringing characters into the bunker, they are literally freezing them with Noel's ice magic, and not to mention like a lot of the magic also looks like it. There's so many parallels that you just notice after watching that scene, and I'm like, holy crap! They became the knight, used their determination gained from that, and then reset the timeline. Of course, it's got to because obviously a bunch of the things that uh, Toby Fox tested in Undertale have to show up in Deltarune. That was the whole point of Undertale, was for him to test a bunch of his stuff.
1, 2, yes.
And
Accounted
he
for.
But after that happens, they go all the way back to the beginning to before the story. One of the names of the OSTs, by the way, the OST that plays when you're selecting a chapter or when you're selecting of save files is called Before the Story, which I think is crazy. And starts doing stuff before the story. And then in oh, my brain is all over the place. It's still the stuff is still fully piecing together in my mind. Well, what the supposed thing that might happen is at the end of chapter 7, Susie will end up being the one with the soul because there are sprites with her with the soul. There's like prophecy images with her in the soul and a sword, which I'll get to in a second. But it's believed that she will want the story to not end, which is what she says to Gerson in chapter 4. That she won't give the story an ending, where it'll never end, and she's going to reset everything back to the beginning so that the bad stuff can't happen. So the story will just continue going where it was going to go. And I think that's actually insane. I cannot believe that it's viable. And then once she does that, but there's the sword that she holds in that sprite is most likely the Twisted Sword, which is an item that can only be obtained probably starting in Chapter 6, because I don't think you get access to Castletown at the end of Chapter 5. Again, I haven't fully beaten it yet, uh, but once we get all 5 Shadow Crystals, I believe you can bring them to Sham, and then you can make
You wanted my dreams.
a Pure Crystal and combine that with the Thorn Ring, which is a very interesting item, by the way, because it requires you to do a boarded weird route to have it. Which reminds me, I kind of want to change my. I'm probably going to redo my violence save file because I actually need to do other stuff. Speaking of a boarded reroute, but you do a boarded reroute to get the Thorn Ring, and you mix that with the Shadow or with the Pure Crystal, and you can get the Twisted Sword. I believe the Twisted Sword with Susie possibly, most likely Susie. I don't think it's gonna be Chris, but it could be. I don't know. Is can use it to kill the knight and actually beat them and reach the one ending, which is what Toby Fox says. One ending, but interestingly enough, it takes multiple playthroughs to understand. And I think that's the most interesting thing. You see, from the beginning, I had thought, oh, Toby Fox, one ending? Nah, he's obviously just lying through his teeth. No, he's just being sneaky about it because it's Toby Fox. There is only one ending, but what? You gotta do all the shadow bosses to do stuff properly. I feel like if that ends up not being the case, it's fine. Again, Toby Fox is impossible to understand, but it would be the most absolute fever dreamish type story I can think of, and it would make a lot of sense if that was the case. Because again, you can remember the ending of the story is a fever dream. Literally, Toby Fox had a fever dream in 2011, and that's what makes Zelda exist. Anyway, that's enough yapping for me.